ancient Babylon, a 14-year-old girl named Beltani is dressed in fine linen, her hair adorned with scented oils. Her family calls it a blessing, a great honor. But as they lead her toward the towering ziggurat, their forced smiles and hushed tones speak more of fear than pride. Inside the temple walls, incense hangs heavy in the air, mingling with the scent of roasted grain and sacrificial offerings. Priests move with practiced reverence, their chants echoing off the stone. But the heavy, locked doors tell a different story. This ritual, framed as sacred devotion, is not about faith, it's about ownership. Historians still debate the true nature of what happened here, but the surviving clay tablets, the meticulous records of the temple, reveal a system built on transaction. This is the story of Beltani and the thousands of women like her, whose lives were recorded in silver and grain, but whose voices were lost to history. Beltani joins a group of other young women at the Temple of Ishtar, the goddess of love, war, and fertility. A priest places a crown of woven rope on her head, a symbol of holiness that will soon become a marker of control. She is fed, housed, and taught the sacred hymns and rituals. On the surface, it's a life of privilege. She is being initiated into a special class of priestesses known as the Kadisu. The Greek historian Herodotus wrote of Babylonian women sitting in the temple courtyard with these rope crowns, waiting for a man to choose them by tossing a silver coin into their lap. While scholars question the accuracy of his account, dismissing it as an outsider's exaggeration, the temple's own ledgers tell a similar story. They list names, dates, and payments, transforming a supposed act of faith into a cold, economic exchange. Beltani's life is now governed by the temple. Her identity as a Kadisu is both a title and a trap. Her training is extensive. She learns to play music, to dance with grace, and to mix perfumes and apply cosmetics. But more than that, she is taught how to behave, how to hold a gaze, how to offer an inviting smile, how to maintain perfect composure, no matter the circumstance. The priests frame this education in theological terms. By pleasing the goddess Ishtar through these rituals, they explain the Kadisu, ensure the prosperity of Babylon. Their service guarantees bountiful harvests, healthy children, and victory in battle. It's a neat, tidy logic that justifies the system. But this divine reasoning stands in stark contrast to the harsh reality of the women's lives. For every hymn sung in praise of the goddess, there is an unspoken cost, a personal sacrifice that the official records never mention. From the outside, the Kadisu appear to hold high status. They wear clean linen, are often literate, and live within the protected walls of the sacred precinct. Temple records even detail their legal rights, wages, and protections, at least on paper. This created a powerful illusion of prestige and autonomy. But this illusion crumbles under scrutiny. The meticulous records track payments and roles, but they say nothing of consent. There are no records of a Kadisu choosing to leave, no documented path to freedom. In theory, they belonged to no single man. In practice, they belonged entirely to the temple system. They were assets of the gods, managed by the priests. Their lives were bound not by chains, but by contracts written on clay tablets, a form of servitude that was just as inescapable. As night falls, the sacred purpose of the temple shifts. The inner courtyard, once a place of prayer and offering, becomes an organized, efficient system of transaction. Merchants, soldiers, and travelers from across the empire enter, their footsteps echoing on the stone floors. They approach the priests, offering payment in silver, grain, or fine cloth. In return, they are guided behind heavy curtains to the secluded chambers where the Kadisu wait. Scribes sit nearby, their styluses scratching on wet clay, recording each man's name and the value of his payment. A portion is designated as a sacrifice to Ishtar. The rest swells the temple's vast store. Beltani watches the older Kadisu, women who have been in the temple for years. They move with a practiced detachment, their expressions unreadable, their movements automatic. They have mastered the art of being present in body but absent in spirit. In the city, these women are publicly respected for their service. They are seen as vessels of divine favor, but their lives have been irrevocably narrowed. The futures available to other women marriage, Children, a household of their own, are close to them. Their time is no longer their own, marked by the ringing of temple bells, the doling out of rations, and the schedules set by the priests. There is no overt violence, no whips or chains, but the absence of brutality does not equal freedom. It is a quiet, orderly subjugation, all the more insidious for its sacred disguise. Once a year, during the Akitu, the New Year festival, the system escalates. The entire city of Babylon erupts in celebration. At the heart of the festival is the sacred marriage, a ritual meant to reenact the union of a god and goddess to ensure the fertility and renewal of the land for another year. Tout le public, it is a beautiful, symbolic ceremony filled with flowers, hymns, and pageantry. It is a public display of divine blessing, but for the Kadisu chosen to participate, it is the ultimate obligation. One year, Beltani's name is called. The senior priestesses prepare her. She is bathed in scented water. Her hair is intricately braided, and her robe crown is adjusted with solemn care. She is led not to the familiar outer chambers, but deep into the heart of the ziggurat, to a room she has never seen before. The air is thick and still. The only light comes from flickering oil lamps, casting long shadows from the stone lions that guard the entrance. In the center of the room is a ceremonial platform, draped in rich textiles. A powerful man enters, perhaps the king, perhaps a high-ranking noble, chosen to embody the god. The priest's words echo in her mind, framing this act not as a personal violation, but as a cosmic necessity. The survival of the city, the fertility of the fields, the prosperity of the empirate, all rests on this moment. Their language leaves no room for refusal. What happens next is not written down. The clay tablets fall silent on this subject. All that survives are poetic fragments, hymns celebrating the divine union and the promise of abundance. The human cost is erased. After that night, everything changes. The priests and scribes make a special notation next to Beltani's name in the temple ledger. When she walks through the courtyards, people look at her differently. There is a new kind of reverence in their eyes, but it is mixed with a subtle pity. Even her trainer Beltani, who had always been so pragmatic, now regards her with a somber recognition. The unspoken message is clear. She has crossed a threshold from which there is no return. She is no longer just a Kadisu. She is now a vessel of a sacred memory, set apart and isolated by the very ritual that was meant to elevate her. As the years pass, Beltani's name appears less and less frequently in the temple records. The entries become shorter, more administrative. And then, one day, they stop altogether. There is no record of her death, no farewell ceremony, no dismissal. She simply vanishes from the ledger. This, the records suggest, was the fate of many Kadisu. They didn't escape or cause a scandal. They were erased through administrative silence. Their service concluded, their value depleted. They were consumed by the very system that had promised them a sacred purpose. Their lives reduced to a final, silent tally. The temple system in Babylon was a masterpiece of efficiency. It turned human lives into a manageable resource, with payments recorded, roles assigned, and rituals meticulously regulated. Women were absorbed into its machinery, some volunteering in desperate hope for security, others given by families with no other options. A few may have found a measure of status or influence, but most, like Beltani, simply faded away. Their stories ending not with a bang, but with a quiet scratch of a stylus on a clay tablet. History preserves the inventories, the sacks of grain, the shekels of silver. It does not preserve the fear, the hope, or the quiet resignation in a young woman's heart. Later generations would try to bury these practices in metaphor, to reinterpret them as purely symbolic. Perhaps because the reality reveals an uncomfortable truth about how power, faith, and commerce can intertwine to create a beautiful cage. The system counted their bodies, but never remembered their names. If you want to remember Beltani, leave her name in the comments below. A small act of defiance against the silence of history. Thank you for watching.